I married her as a joke. The billionaire laughed. He never expected who his wife really was. A billionaire thinks it's all fun and games when he marries a quiet young woman at a charity gala. Just for laughs. But the next morning, everything falls apart, because the marriage is real, and the woman he joked about is hiding a secret that could destroy his entire empire. She wasn't there to be his bride. She was sent to take him down. But when an attack targets both of them, the joke turns deadly, and he realizes she may be the only person who can save him. And she discovers the man she was told to ruin might not be the monster she believed. Now they're trapped in a marriage neither wanted, hunted by someone inside his own company, someone who wants them both gone. But why was she really chosen for this mission? And what happens when the man who mocked the wedding starts to wish it were real? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now, and if this story speaks to you, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The grand ballroom of the Denver Renaissance Hotel sparkled under crystal chandeliers, their light dancing off champagne flutes and designer jewelry. Devin Locke adjusted his bow tie for the 100th time that evening, forcing another practiced smile as yet another donor approached him with the same rehearsed compliments he'd heard 1,000 times before. "Marvelous event, Mr. Locke," the elderly woman gushed, her diamond necklace catching the light. "Locke Industries always throws the most memorable galas." "You're too kind, Mrs. Henderson," Devin replied smoothly, though inside he felt hollow. These events had become a blur of fake smiles and empty conversations. He glanced around the opulent space, taking in the hundreds of guests in their finest attire, all here to support, or more accurately, to be seen supporting, various children's charities. Near the volunteer tables, a young woman in a simple navy dress caught his eye. Unlike the other guests who seemed desperate for his attention, she appeared focused on her task of organizing donation cards. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she moved with quiet efficiency. "And now, ladies and gentlemen," the event announcer's voice boomed through the speakers, drawing Devin's attention back to the stage. "It's time for our annual fundraising highlight, the charity wedding." A collective murmur of anticipation rippled through the crowd. This silly tradition had started 3 years ago when a drunk donor had suggested they stage mock weddings to encourage bigger donations. Somehow, it had become a crowd favorite. "Who will be our lucky couple tonight?" the announcer continued, sweeping his arm across the audience. His gaze landed on Devin, and a mischievous grin spread across his face. "Perhaps our very own bachelor billionaire, Mr. Devin Locke." The crowd erupted in appreciative laughter and applause. Devin felt his chest tighten. He hadn't expected to be put on the spot, but years of public speaking helped him maintain his composed smile. He made his way to the stage, playing along with the moment. "Now, Mr. Locke," the announcer said, "you'll need a bride. Would you care to choose someone from our lovely audience?" Devin scanned the crowd, seeing the eager faces of several society women who'd been trying to catch his attention all evening. His gaze drifted back to the volunteer tables, where the quiet young woman still stood, now watching the proceedings with a slightly alarmed expression. Something about her reserved demeanor and clear disinterest in the spotlight made him point in her direction. "How about our dedicated volunteer over there?" The spotlight swung to illuminate her, and Devin recognized her as Bella Briggs, one of the new interns from the marketing department. Her eyes widened like a deer caught in headlights as people around her gently pushed her towards the stage. "Come on up, dear," the announcer encouraged, extending his hand to help her up the steps. Bella climbed onto the stage, her cheeks flushed pink. She wore no jewelry except for small pearl earrings, and her dress, while elegant, was clearly off the rack rather than designer. Something about her understated appearance made her stand out even more among the glittering crowd. "Your name, miss?" the announcer asked, holding out the microphone. "Bella Briggs." She answered softly, her voice barely audible until he adjusted the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have our couple." The announcer produced a small box containing a plastic ring with an oversized fake diamond. "Mr. Locke, would you do the honors?" Devon took the ring, noting how Bella's hand trembled slightly as he held it. "I, Devon Locke," he proclaimed with exaggerated formality, "promise to cherish you for the rest of the night." He slipped the cheap ring onto her finger as the crowd laughed and applauded. Camera flashes erupted from all directions, capturing the moment for various society columns and social media posts. Bella maintained a professional smile, but Devon noticed how she subtly angled herself away from the cameras. The mock ceremony concluded quickly, and as they left the stage, Devon felt an unexpected twinge of guilt. He'd put this obviously private person in an uncomfortable position for the sake of entertainment. But before he could apologize, she had already slipped away into the crowd. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of handshakes and small talk. As the gala wound down, Devon stood near the exit, saying goodbye to departing guests. He forced himself to laugh as several people made jokes about his wedding. "Better luck finding a real bride next time, Devon," called out Richard Thompson, one of his board members. "The night's still young." Devon replied with a wink, maintaining his carefree facade while inwardly cringing at the comment. Through the glass doors, he caught a glimpse of Bella leaving the hotel, pulling her coat tight against the cold Denver night. Her expression was unreadable as she disappeared into the darkness, still wearing the plastic ring he'd placed on her finger. The weight of his loneliness felt heavier than usual as he watched her go. Despite being surrounded by hundreds of people, despite the laughter and music and flowing champagne, Devon had never felt more alone. He continued his duties as host, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the quiet intern who seemed as out of place in this glittering world as he sometimes felt himself. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Devon's penthouse office, but he barely noticed its warmth. His head throbbed slightly from one too many glasses of champagne at last night's gala. He loosened his tie and smiled, remembering the mock wedding ceremony. It had been good publicity, exactly what Locke Industries needed right now. The knock on his door was sharp and urgent. "Come in," he called, not looking up from his laptop. Margaret Chen, his head legal counsel, burst in with two junior lawyers trailing behind her. Her usually immaculate appearance was disheveled, and she clutched a manila folder like it might explode. "Mr. Locke," she said, her voice tight. "We have a situation." Devon leaned back in his chair. "Whatever it is, I'm sure we can handle it." "Sir, about last night's ceremony." Margaret's hands shook as she opened the folder. "The charity staff, they made a terrible mistake." "Mistake?" Devon frowned, sitting up straighter. "They used real marriage documentation, legal documentation." Margaret spread several papers across his desk. "And both you and Miss Briggs signed everything." Devon stared at the papers, his mouth going dry. "That's impossible. It was just for show." "The signatures are binding." One of the junior lawyers spoke up. "The officiant was licensed. All the witnesses signed. It's completely legal under Colorado state law." "Fix it." Devon stood up so quickly his chair rolled backward. "Get it annulled. Now." Margaret shook her head. "We've been trying since 5 o'clock this morning. There are complications because of how the charity's non-profit status interacts with the legal documentation. We can't fast-track anything." "What are you saying?" Devon's voice was dangerously quiet. I'm saying that as of last night, you are legally married to Isabella Briggs." Devin stormed out of his office, ignoring the elevator in favor of the stairs. His footsteps echoed through the stairwell as he descended to the marketing department's floor. He needed to find Bella before this got out of hand. The marketing department was already buzzing with activity. Several employees looked up as he entered, surprise evident on their faces. The CEO rarely visited this floor, but there she was, sitting calmly at her desk, typing away as if it were any other morning. Bella wore a simple navy blazer over a white blouse, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. Nothing about her appearance suggested she had just discovered she was accidentally married to her boss. "Miss Briggs," he said, his voice clipped. "My office. Now." She looked up, her expression perfectly composed. "Of course, Mr. Locke." She stood, smoothing her skirt, and followed him to a nearby conference room. Devin closed the door behind them and turned to face her. "Have you heard? About the marriage documentation?" Bella's voice was steady. "Yes, HR called me this morning." He waited for her to continue, to yell, to cry, to demand compensation. But she just stood there, hands clasped in front of her, watching him with those quiet, observant eyes. "And?" he prompted. "And I appreciate how maturely you're handling the situation," she said. "I'm sure your legal team will resolve it as quickly as possible." Devin blinked, thrown off balance by her calm demeanor. Where was the panic? The outrage? The threats of lawsuits? That's all you have to say? Is there something specific you'd like me to say, Mr. Locke?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. Most people would be a little more concerned about accidentally marrying a stranger. "Getting emotional won't solve anything," Bella replied. "I trust that between your legal team and HR, this will be handled appropriately." She glanced at her watch. "If there's nothing else, I have a meeting in 5 minutes." "No, that's—" Devin shook his head. "That's all for now. Thank you, Mr. Locke." Bella turned and walked to the door, her heels clicking softly against the floor. Devin watched her leave, a strange unease settling in his stomach. Her composure was too perfect, too practiced. Most interns could barely maintain eye contact with him, let alone handle an accidental marriage with such poise. As she disappeared down the hallway, Devin couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. No one was this calm about accidentally marrying their billionaire boss. What game was she playing? He stood in the doorway of the conference room, his mind racing. The quiet intern who'd seemed so bashful on stage last night now seemed like a completely different person. Her serenity felt less like peace and more like a mask, and Devin couldn't help but wonder what lay beneath it. Throughout the day, Devin found himself unable to focus on his regular tasks. His eyes kept drifting to the security feeds displayed on his office tablet, tracking Bella's movements through the building. With each passing hour, little details he'd previously overlooked began to surface. During the morning staff meeting, he noticed how she positioned herself with a clear view of both exits. At lunch, she sat alone, her back to the wall, observing everyone else in the cafeteria while appearing absorbed in her phone. When someone dropped a stack of papers, most people jumped, but Bella's hand had moved toward her hip before she caught herself. "Sir." His assistant, Margaret, cleared her throat. "The board is waiting for your signature on these documents." Devin blinked, realizing he'd been staring at the security feed again. On the screen, Bella was walking through the East Wing, her movements precise and purposeful. Not like an intern at all. "Have you noticed anything unusual about Miss Briggs?" he asked Margaret, the intern. Margaret adjusted her glasses. "Well, she's very capable. Almost too capable, really. Most interns need weeks to learn our filing system, but she understood it immediately." Devon nodded slowly. What else? She asks a lot of questions about building security protocols. I assumed it was because she's detail-oriented, but... Margaret trailed off, looking uncomfortable. Thank you, Margaret. That will be all. As the day wore on, Devon's suspicions grew. He watched Bella methodically work her way through different departments, always with a friendly smile and a helpful attitude that got people talking. She took careful notes during meetings, but her eyes regularly scanned the room, taking in details that had nothing to do with marketing strategies. By 6 o'clock, most employees had left for the day. Devon spotted Bella heading toward the third-floor conference room and made his decision. It was time for answers. He found her organizing papers, the setting sun casting long shadows through the floor-to-ceiling windows. She looked up as he entered, unsurprised by his presence. You're not really an intern, are you? Devon shut the door behind him. Bella straightened, setting down her papers. Her posture shifted subtly, still relaxed, but more alert. No, Mr. Locke, I'm not. Then who are you? She studied him for a moment, as if weighing her options. I'm an investigative operative with the Corporate Ethics Enforcement Network. We've been monitoring Locke Industries for the past 8 months. Devon felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. Monitoring? For what? There are significant discrepancies in your company's environmental impact reports. Bella explained, her voice professional and detached. Large sums of money being moved through shell companies. Suspicious accidents at your recycling facilities. That's ridiculous, Devon snapped. We're one of the most transparent companies in the industry. On the surface, yes. Bella moved away from the conference table, maintaining distance between them. My assignment was purely observational. Gather data, document patterns, report findings. But your little stunt last night changed everything. Hot anger rushed through Devon's veins. My stunt? You've been lying since the day you walked in here, making a fool of me, probably laughing behind my back. This isn't personal, Mr. Locke. Bella interrupted. Whether you're directly involved in these activities or being used as a figurehead, something illegal is happening in your company. Security will escort you out. Devon reached for his phone. And I'll have my lawyers. A loud alarm cut through the air, making them both jump. The overhead lights flickered once, twice, then stabilized. Attention all personnel. A computerized voice announced. We are experiencing a system malfunction. Please remain calm and exit the building following standard evacuation procedures. Devon moved towards the door, but Bella's voice stopped him. That's not a malfunction. He turned to find her already in motion, checking the windows. Her entire demeanor transformed from office worker to something else entirely. Focused, alert, dangerous. What do you mean? The alarm pattern is wrong for a system malfunction, she explained quickly. And look at the parking garage. Devon joined her at the window. Below, several black SUVs were pulling into the underground entrance. We need to move, Bella said. Now. I'm not going anywhere with you, Devon protested, but his voice lacked conviction. Mr. Locke. Bella met his eyes directly. Someone just triggered a false evacuation and is entering your building with multiple vehicles. Either this is a very elaborate coincidence or something is very wrong. Your choice. Stay here and find out, or trust me for the next 5 minutes. The lights flickered again, and somewhere in the distance they heard shouting. Fine, Devon growled. Lead the way. They moved swiftly through the building, Bella leading them down the emergency stairwell rather than toward the main exits where everyone else was heading. Her movements were silent and efficient, checking corners before proceeding. The garage has a private exit, Devon whispered as they reached the lower level. My car is probably being watched. Bella finished. We'll take mine, less obvious. They pushed through the heavy door into the parking garage. The fluorescent lights cast everything in harsh shadows, their footsteps echoing off concrete walls. They had almost reached Bella's car when a deep rumble shook the building. The floor beneath their feet trembled. Bella grabbed Devin's arm, pulling him backward just as an explosion rocked the far end of the garage, sending a wave of heat and debris rushing towards them. The explosion's shockwave knocked them off balance. Without hesitation, Bella yanked Devin behind a thick concrete pillar just as a nearby car erupted in flames. The heat seared the air around them, and fragments of metal pinged against the concrete like deadly hail. "Stay down!" Bella commanded, her body tensed as she assessed their surroundings. The garage filled with thick black smoke, making it difficult to breathe or see more than a few feet ahead. Devin pressed his back against the pillar, his heart hammering. "This is insane! Who would—" The screech of tires cut him off as several vehicles rushed into the garage. Flashlight beams cut through the smoke, and familiar voices shouted orders. "Security team advancing. Everyone clear the area!" Samuel Ortiz's commanding voice carried over the chaos. "Mr. Locke, are you here?" "Sam!" Devin called out, relief flooding his system at the sound of his head of security's voice. "Stay behind me," Bella whispered, still on high alert as the security team approached. Samuel emerged from the smoke, his weathered face tight with concern. He was flanked by 4 other security officers, all with weapons drawn. "Sir, we need to get you out of here now. Emergency stairwell's been secured." Bella's eyes darted between the security team members, analyzing each face before giving a slight nod. They moved as a unit, Samuel taking point, while 2 officers flanked Devin and Bella. The remaining team members covered their rear as they hustled toward the stairwell. The emergency exit led them up through a narrow concrete passage, emergency lights casting everything in an eerie red glow. Devin noticed how Bella matched his pace perfectly, her movements fluid and practiced. This was clearly not her first evacuation. They emerged into the cool night air where chaos awaited them. Emergency vehicles' lights painted the scene in rotating reds and blues. Fire trucks were already positioning their equipment, and police had established a perimeter. In the distance, curious onlookers gathered despite officers' attempts to keep them back. "Over here," Samuel directed them toward a secure area where investigators were gathering. "DPD's top people are already en route." Bella's posture shifted subtly as various officials approached. She maintained her composure, but Devin caught the way her eyes narrowed at certain badges and credentials being displayed. The questioning began immediately. "Mr. Locke, can you think of anyone who might want to harm you or your company? Were you aware of any specific threats? Did you notice anything unusual in the building today?" Devin answered automatically, his business training kicking in during crisis. But he noticed something odd. Bella's reactions to certain questions. She seemed particularly interested when one investigator asked about building maintenance schedules, and another inquired about recent IT upgrades. As the night wore on, more specialists arrived. Fire investigators confirmed the explosion originated from a sophisticated device, not an accident. Crime scene technicians photographed every inch of the garage while bomb squad members swept the building. During a brief lull in questioning, Samuel pulled Devin aside. His face was grim, deepening the lines earned from decades of service. So this wasn't random. The timing, the placement. Someone knew exactly when and where to strike. They had inside access to our security protocols. Devin ran a hand through his hair, the weight of the situation finally sinking in. "Sam, what are we dealing with here?" "Something big," Samuel replied, his voice low. The level of planning involved. This wasn't some amateur trying to make a statement. These people are professionals. They both glanced at Bella, who stood a short distance away, speaking quietly with a federal agent. She caught their look and excused herself, joining them with measured steps. "Your security chief is right." she said without preamble. "This has all the hallmarks of a coordinated attack. The false evacuation alarm was meant to create confusion, separate targets from protection details." Samuel studied her with newfound interest. "You're not really an intern, are you?" "No," Bella admitted. "But right now that's actually working in Mr. Locke's favor." Before they could discuss further, the lead investigator approached their group. "Mr. Locke, Ms. Briggs, we need to discuss immediate security measures." The investigator, a stern-faced woman in her 40s, consulted her tablet. "Given the sophistication of this attack and certain intelligence we've received, we're recommending you both remain under shared protection until we can determine the full scope of the threat." "Shared protection?" Devon echoed, his eyebrows rising. "Yes," the investigator continued. "You'll need to stay in close proximity, with round-the-clock security details. We can't risk separating potential targets until we understand the motive." Devon opened his mouth to protest, but no words came out. He looked at Bella, expecting to see the same shock he felt, but her face remained perfectly composed. "That's a sensible precaution," Bella said calmly, as if discussing the weather rather than arrangements that would keep her tethered to a man she'd been investigating. Samuel nodded in agreement. "I'll coordinate with my team to establish immediate protocols." The night air had grown colder, and in the distance, the first hints of dawn began to lighten the sky. Emergency vehicles still crowded the street, their lights now competing with the growing day. Devon stood there, speechless, as reality settled around him like a heavy cloak. His life as he knew it had just changed dramatically, and the woman beside him, who wasn't who she claimed to be, might be his only chance at understanding why. The black SUV wound its way up the twisting mountain road, headlights cutting through the gathering dusk. Inside, Bella sat quietly, while Devon stared out the window, watching Denver's city lights grow smaller below them. Neither had spoken since leaving the chaos downtown. Their security detail led them to a modern mountain home nestled among towering pines. The safe house blended naturally into its surroundings, with walls of stone and glass, but Bella noted the reinforced windows and sophisticated security cameras with approval. "We've swept the entire property," the lead agent reported. "2 teams will rotate patrol outside. Emergency response time is 12 minutes. Inside, the house was sparsely but comfortably furnished. The great room featured a wall of windows overlooking the city, though heavy curtains could be drawn for privacy. A well-equipped kitchen opened to a dining area, and a hallway led to several bedrooms. Bella headed straight for the kitchen, opening cabinets to assess supplies. The pantry was stocked with basics: pasta, canned goods, dry staples. She pulled out ingredients while Devon paced the great room like a caged animal. "I can make pasta," she offered, trying to break the tension. "There's sauce and—" "How dare you!" Devon whirled to face her, his carefully maintained composure finally cracking. "You infiltrated my company under false pretenses. You put my employees at risk. And now someone's trying to kill us." Bella set down the pasta box with deliberate calm. "I was sent to investigate because something is very wrong at Locke Industries. People who tried to expose it have vanished." "That's ridiculous," Devon scoffed. "I know every aspect of my company's operations." "Do you?" Bella's voice took on an edge. "What happened to Maria Suarez? She filed workplace safety complaints last year, then disappeared before the investigation. Or James Chen. He reported financial irregularities to your compliance hotline. 3 days later, he resigned and moved overseas with no forwarding address." Devon's face paled slightly. "Those were personal choices. People leave jobs all the time." 7 whistleblowers in 3 years. Bella pressed. "All gone without a trace. That's why my organization placed me there. Something dangerous is happening right under your nose." "I trust my people." Devon slammed his hand on the counter. Every single employee matters to me. I've built this company on integrity and innovation, not fear and corruption. Oh, please. Bella's calm facade cracked. I grew up watching corporations like yours destroy communities like mine. The factory closing that left hundreds jobless. The contaminated groundwater they claimed wasn't their fault. The lawyers and PR teams that buried every complaint in red tape until families gave up fighting. That's not who we are, Devon insisted. I've created thousands of jobs. Our foundation funds education and healthcare initiatives. We're not the enemy you think we are. They glared at each other across the kitchen island, the truth of their fundamentally opposed worldviews laying bare between them. Finally, Bella turned back to the stove. Someone tried to kill us today. Whatever's happening goes beyond our personal opinions. We need to work together to uncover the truth. Devon's shoulders slumped slightly. Fine. Temporary cooperation. But I'm watching you. Likewise, Bella replied, filling a pot with water. The simple dinner preparation provided a needed distraction. The familiar motions of cooking helped settle Bella's nerves, while Devon's pacing gradually slowed as savory aromas filled the air. Just as Bella was serving the pasta, Devon's phone buzzed. Samuel's name lit up the screen. What have you found? Devon answered immediately, putting the call on speaker. The investigation is moving fast. Samuel's gruff voice came through. The explosive device was professional grade, security. Footage shows tampering in multiple systems. This goes deep, Devon. What are you saying, Sam? There was a heavy pause. Trust no one right now, not even people you think you know. Something's very wrong here. The call ended, leaving them in uncomfortable silence. Bella and Devon exchanged wary looks across their barely touched meals. I need some air, Bella said quietly, standing up. She walked down the hallway to her assigned bedroom, closing the door with a soft clicks. Devon remained in the dim hallway, staring at her closed door. The mountain home's silence pressed in around him, heavy with the weight of secrets he was only beginning to understand. His company, his life's work, suddenly felt like shifting sand beneath his feet. And the woman behind that door, enemy or ally, might be his only chance at uncovering the truth. Dawn's first light crept through the safe-house windows as Bella sat cross-legged on the living room couch, her encrypted tablet balanced on her knee. The soft glow illuminated her face as she scrolled through files, her fingers moving swiftly across the screen. She had already showered and dressed, her damp hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. The coffee maker hummed in the kitchen, filling the house with a rich aroma. Bella had found premium beans in the pantry and set them brewing, a small attempt at normalcy in their extraordinary situation. Heavy footsteps on the stairs announced Devon's arrival. He paused in the doorway, taking in the unexpected domesticity of the scene. The fresh coffee, the neat stack of papers on the coffee table, Bella's focused presence. There's coffee if you'd like some, she said without looking up. Mugs are in the cabinet above the maker. Devon walked to the kitchen, his guard slightly lowered by the morning ritual. You're up early. I'm always up early, Bella replied. Old habits. He poured coffee into a ceramic mug, then hesitated before pouring a second one. Walking over, he set it on the table near Bella. She glanced up, surprised by the gesture. Thank you, she said quietly. Their security detail arrived precisely at 7:30 in the morning, 3 black SUVs pulling up to the safe house. Samuel coordinated with the team through his earpiece, organizing their travel formation to Lock Industries. In the back of the middle SUV, Bella and Devon sat reviewing their schedules on tablets. I'll need to stay close to you today, Bella explained, for security reasons. Devon nodded stiffly. Just try to be discreet. My employees don't need more stress right now. The Denver skyline grew larger as they approached downtown. Lock Industries' gleaming tower rose above its neighbors, morning sun reflecting off its windows. Security ushered them through a private entrance and up to the executive floor. Throughout the morning, Bella observed Devin's interactions with growing curiosity. He greeted the cleaning staff by name, asking about their families. In meetings, he listened intently to junior employees' ideas, offering thoughtful feedback rather than dismissal. During lunch, they stopped by the company daycare center, a pet project Devin had implemented years ago. Children ran to hug his legs while he chatted with the caregivers about recent improvements they'd requested. The playground equipment needs updating, one teacher mentioned hesitantly. Send me the proposals. Devin replied immediately. Safety first, always. Bella watched this exchange with growing confusion. This wasn't the callous CEO her briefing had described. This was someone who genuinely cared about his people's well-being. In the afternoon, they reviewed charitable initiatives. Bella noticed that many major donations were made anonymously through shell companies that traced back to Devin personally. Why keep it quiet? She asked as they left one meeting. Devin shrugged. The work matters, not the recognition. Hour by hour, Bella's preconceptions began to crack. She saw his genuine desire to create positive change, even as she struggled to reconcile it with her mission. For his part, Devin found himself studying Bella when she wasn't looking. He noticed how she remembered everyone's names, how she helped a struggling intern with his computer issues, how she treated everyone with equal respect regardless of their position. By evening, exhaustion had settled over them both. The drive back to the safe house was quiet, street lights casting intermittent shadows across their faces. Inside, Bella sank onto the couch, while Devin ordered dinner delivery, their security team carefully vetting both restaurant and driver. They ate simple Chinese food from cartons, the tension between them softened by fatigue. My mother worked in a factory when I was young, Bella said suddenly, her voice quiet. Good job, union benefits. Then a corporation bought it, stripped the assets, laid everyone off. No severance, no warning. She pushed rice around with her chopsticks. The whole town died slowly after that. Mom never really recovered. Devin set down his carton, listening. That's why I do this work, she continued. Too many communities destroyed by corporate greed. Too many lives treated like numbers on a spreadsheet. I'm sorry that happened to your family, Devin said softly. That's not how business has to be. Bella's eyes were growing heavy, the long day catching up with her. She curled deeper into the couch corner, her usual sharp alertness fading. I saw how you treat people today, she murmured, voice thick with approaching sleep. Maybe you're right. Maybe it can be different. Her words trailed off as her eyes closed completely. Devin watched her for a moment, noting how much younger she looked in sleep, the defensive walls finally lowered. Standing quietly, he retrieved a soft throw blanket from a nearby chair. With gentle movements, he draped it over her sleeping form. Her breathing had already deepened into the steady rhythm of exhaustion. Devin moved through the room, turning off lamps until only the soft glow of Denver's lights filtered through the windows. At the doorway, he paused for one last look at Bella's peaceful face before heading upstairs, leaving her to rest in the gentle darkness. Dawn broke over the Denver foothills, painting the safe house windows in soft orange light. Samuel Ortiz arrived early, his weathered face more serious than usual, as he carried a thick folder and laptop into the living room, where Devin and Bella waited. You both need to see this, Samuel said, spreading security footage stills across the coffee table. His fingers, strong from decades of service, pointed to specific timestamps. These cameras cover the garage access points. Look at the time codes. Bella leaned forward, her investigative training kicking in. The system shows gaps, she noted, spreading the photos in sequence. 3-minute intervals where feeds cut out, then resume. Exactly. Samuel pulled up video footage on his laptop. Watch the lower right corner at 8:45 p.m. They observed as a figure in maintenance coveralls accessed a restricted panel, then the feed stopped. When it resumed, the person was gone. Professional work, Bella murmured. They knew exactly where the blind spots were. Devin's jaw tightened. This was an inside job. Gets worse. Samuel continued, pulling out more photos. These maintenance logs were altered, but our backup system caught the original entries. Only senior executives have that level of access. Bella began comparing timestamps, her fingers flying over her tablet as she cross-referenced data. Wait. She pulled up employee schedules. These access times match meetings in Elias Harmon's calendar, every single one. Harmon. Devin's face darkened. My VP of operations? Look at these patterns. Bella created a timeline on her tablet. Building access, security overrides, maintenance schedule changes, they all align with Harmon's movements. He's the only executive with both the clearance and the opportunity. Samuel nodded grimly. I've had concerns about Harmon for months. Cost-cutting measures that ignored safety protocols, pressure on employees to falsify reports. I trusted him, Devin said quietly, hurt evident in his voice. He's been with the company for 15 years. Bella hesitated, then spoke carefully. There's more. The organization that sent me. They provided evidence suggesting you personally approved contracts with illegal waste disposal companies, financial records showing systematic fraud. She met his eyes. That's why I was assigned to investigate you specifically. The room grew painfully quiet. Devin stood, walking to the window where morning sun cast his shadow long across the floor. When he finally spoke, his voice was tight with emotion. You believed I would do that? That I would deliberately poison communities and steal from my own company? Bella faltered. The evidence seemed convincing at the time. Those documents were forgeries. Samuel interjected. Had to be. I've known Devin since he took over the company at 25. He's made enemies by refusing to cut corners. Devin turned back to face them. My father died when our family chemical plant leaked toxic waste into groundwater. The company had falsified safety reports for years. I watched an entire town suffer while executives walked away wealthy. His hands clenched. I rebuilt this company on a foundation of ethics and transparency. Every decision, every contract, every policy is designed to prevent what happened to my hometown. Bella felt shame creep up her neck. She'd judged him based on manufactured evidence, never questioning its source. I'm sorry, she said softly. I should have dug deeper before accepting those accusations. Evening found them sharing a quiet dinner in the safe house kitchen. The weight of revelations hung heavy between them. Devin pushed food around his plate, lost in thought. Tell me about your vision, Bella said suddenly. For ethical business. What does it look like in practice? Devin looked up, surprised by her interest. It starts with people, he began. Treating employees like family, not resources, providing real benefits, growth opportunities, work-life balance, supporting the communities we operate in through education and infrastructure. His voice grew passionate as he continued. Profit matters. It has to for sustainability, but not at the expense of people or the environment. Every decision gets filtered through that lens. Will this help or harm in the long run? Bella listened intently, her earlier certainty about her mission crumbling further with each word. This was not the corrupt businessman she'd been sent to expose. This was someone fighting the very system she opposed. Later that night, as Bella prepared for bed, her tablet chimed with an incoming message. The screen flickered, displaying text in an encrypted format she recognized from her organization. Mission compromised. Abort immediately. Destroy all evidence and withdraw. Her hands trembled slightly as she decoded the warning. The implication was clear. Someone was monitoring her actions, her communications, her every move. The question was, who? The message blinked once more before erasing itself, leaving Bella staring at her reflection in the dark screen, uncertainty gnawing at her confidence. Everything she'd believed about this assignment was unraveling, replaced by questions she wasn't sure she wanted answered. Through her open door, she could hear Devon on the phone in his office, his voice carrying traces of the pain her revelations had caused. Trust, once broken, was not easily rebuilt. Yet something in her wanted to try, to understand the man beyond the lies she'd been fed. The tablet sat heavy in her hands, its blank screen holding secrets that threatened to change everything she thought she knew about her mission, about Devon, and about the truth she'd dedicated herself to uncovering. The safe house was silent except for the gentle hum of electronics when Bella woke at 4:30 in the morning. Moonlight filtered through the blinds, casting striped shadows across her tablet as she worked to decode the mysterious message from the previous night. Her fingers moved swiftly across the screen, applying decryption protocols she'd learned during her training. As the message revealed itself line by line, Bella's breath caught in her throat. Beyond the initial warning to abort the mission, detailed information about the parking garage attack emerged. The explosion had been precisely calculated, timed to coincide with their presence. "You're getting too close," the final line read ominously. "Stand down or face the consequences." Through the wall, she could hear Devon's steady breathing in the adjacent room. The sound reminded her that she wasn't alone in this anymore. Her investigation had entangled them both in something far more dangerous than corporate misconduct. When sunrise painted the kitchen in soft amber light, Devon emerged to find Bella already on her third cup of coffee. She watched him pour his own cup, gathering courage for the conversation ahead. "There's something you need to know," she began, sliding her tablet across the counter. "The message I received last night, it wasn't just a warning. They know about the investigation, about us working together. We're both targets now." Devon's jaw tightened as he read the decoded text. "They're watching us closely enough to know our movements," he observed, his voice grim. "This goes deeper than Harmon." The drive to Locke Industries felt longer than usual, despite the enhanced security detail Samuel had arranged. 2 unmarked vehicles flanked their car, while a helicopter maintained discreet aerial surveillance. Bella noticed how Devon's shoulders remained tense throughout the journey, his usual confident demeanor replaced by watchful alertness. The morning passed in a blur of meetings and conference calls, but everything changed during the 2 o'clock budget review. Marcus Chen, a middle-aged accountant from payroll, burst into the boardroom unannounced. His face was pale, hands shaking as he pointed at Devon. "You need to know what's happening," Marcus blurted out, ignoring the startled executives. "I found irregularities in the payroll accounts, huge sums being diverted through shell companies. When I asked questions, His voice cracked. "They showed me pictures of my kids at school, said I should focus on my own family's safety." Security moved to remove him, but Bella caught something in Marcus's eyes, raw fear rather than anger. She touched Devon's arm lightly, communicating her insight with a look. This wasn't a disgruntled employee seeking revenge. This was someone being used, just like she had been. "Wait," Devon commanded, raising his hand to stop security. "Mr. Chen, please sit down. Tell me. Everything. From the beginning." The meeting dissolved as Marcus shared his story, describing threatening phone calls and mysterious emails warning him to stay quiet. Bella recognized the pattern, the same tactics used to manipulate her into investigating Devon. Someone was orchestrating an elaborate scheme, using people's fears and principles against them. By evening, exhaustion had settled over them both. They sat in the safe house living room, surrounded by empty Chinese takeout containers. Bella pushed her lo mein around with chopsticks, lost in thought. "I owe you an apology," she said finally, meeting Devon's eyes. "I came here believing the worst about you. I let preconceptions and manufactured evidence cloud my judgment." Devon set down his container, considering her words. "And I thought you were just another corporate spy trying to destroy what I've built." He smiled slightly. "I underestimated your integrity, your strength. You could have walked away when things got dangerous, but you stayed to find the truth." The moment was interrupted by a faint whirring sound outside the window. Bella's training kicked in immediately. She recognized the distinctive noise of drone rotors. "Don't move," she whispered, slowly reaching for her phone to alert security. Through the glass, they could see the drone hovering, its sensors glowing red as it scanned the building for heat signatures. It was sleek, military-grade equipment, not the kind of toy available to ordinary civilians. The drone lingered for several seconds before darting away into the darkness, leaving them with the chilling realization that their enemies were escalating their tactics. They weren't just being watched anymore, they were being hunted. Bella and Devon exchanged glances, both understanding what this meant. Their adversaries were growing bold enough to conduct surveillance in plain sight, confident in their ability to act without consequences. The game was changing, becoming more dangerous with each passing hour. Samuel's phone call came seconds later, confirming what they already knew. Their security had been breached. The safe house location, meant to be known only to a select few, had been compromised. Samuel's arrival at the safe house came just before midnight, his weathered face tight with concern. He carried a small, encrypted hard drive in his jacket pocket, treating it like a live explosive. "I've been monitoring Harmon's movements," Samuel explained, placing the drive on the kitchen counter. "When he left for his evening meeting, I took advantage of the window. Everything on here is copied directly from his private server." Bella's fingers flew across her laptop keyboard as she connected the drive. "The encryption is military grade," she muttered, eyes scanning lines of code. "But there's always a weakness if you know where to look." Devon paced behind her chair, tension radiating from his shoulders. The soft glow of the laptop screen illuminated their faces, in the dimly lit kitchen as midnight stretched toward dawn. Samuel stood guard by the window, occasionally checking his phone for security updates. "There," Bella whispered after 3 hours of concentrated work. "I'm in." Folders appeared on her screen, each labeled with precise dates and cryptic codes. As she opened them one by one, their contents painted a disturbing picture. Fabricated bank statements showed massive transfers from Locke Industries to offshore accounts, all bearing Devon's electronic signature, perfectly forged. Environmental impact reports had been doctored to show toxic waste disposal in protected watersheds, again with Devon's apparent approval. "I never authorized any of this," Devon said, his voice hoarse with disbelief. "These signatures, they're perfect copies, but I never signed these documents." "They've been building this case for months," Samuel observed grimly, "creating a paper trail that would hold up in court." But it was the surveillance photos that made Bella's blood run cold. Images of her getting coffee near her apartment, walking to the gym, meeting friends for dinner, all taken weeks before she ever received the assignment to investigate Locke Industries. "Oh God," she breathed, hands trembling slightly. "They chose me specifically. They knew my background, my principles, my history with corporate investigations. They needed someone who would believe the worst about you without questioning too deeply." The weight of the manipulation crashed over her. Every file she'd been given, every piece of evidence that had convinced her of Devin's corruption, it had all been carefully crafted to exploit her biases and sense of justice. "I need some air," Bella said suddenly, pushing back from the laptop. She hurried outside onto the safe house's back deck, the cool Colorado night air filling her lungs as she gripped the railing. Footsteps behind her announced Devin's presence. She expected anger, resentment, blame, but instead he simply stood beside her, offering silent support. "I was supposed to be your downfall," she whispered. "They played me perfectly." "You figured it out." Devin countered gently. "That's what matters. Your instincts led you to question things, to look deeper." He turned toward her, moonlight softening his features. "We're both victims here, Bella, but together we might actually have a chance at exposing the truth." The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken understanding. Bella felt something shift in her chest. Trust, perhaps, or something deeper she wasn't ready to name. The screech of tires shattered the silence. Police vehicles roared up the long driveway, lights flashing against the trees. Officers poured out, weapons drawn, shouting orders into the night. "Devin Locke!" A commanding voice boomed through a megaphone. "Come out with your hands up. You're under arrest for financial fraud and environmental crimes." Samuel burst through the door behind them. "They're using Harmon's fabricated evidence," he said quickly. "Someone must have tipped them off that we accessed the files. The proof is right there on my laptop." Bella protested as officers surrounded them. "We can show you everything, the fake documents, the surveillance." But her words fell on deaf ears. Two officers grabbed Devin's arms, roughly spinning him around to cuff his wrists. "It's going to be okay," Devin said calmly, meeting Bella's desperate gaze as they led him away. "Find the truth. That's all that matters now." "You're arresting an innocent man!" Bella shouted, trying to follow. Samuel held her back as she struggled. "We have proof. Everything you think you know is fake." But the officers continued their methodical process, reading Devin his rights as they guided him toward a waiting police car. The red and blue lights painted his face in harsh colors as he ducked into the back seat. "The evidence is all there." Bella's voice cracked with frustration and fear. "Please, just look at what we found." The car door slammed shut. Through the window, Devin gave her one last reassuring nod before the vehicle pulled away, taking him into the night, while Bella watched helplessly from the deck, the truth sitting undiscovered on her laptop just feet away. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the small interrogation room, casting harsh shadows across Devin's face. The metal chair felt cold and unyielding beneath him as he sat alone, his expensive suit wrinkled from the rough handling during his arrest. His thoughts kept returning to Bella's face, the fear, the desperation in her eyes as she shouted about the evidence they'd uncovered. A clock on the wall ticked away the minutes. 10:15, 10:30, 11 o'clock. No one had questioned him yet. Standard pressure tactic, he knew. Make him sweat. Make him nervous. But his mind remained focused on the safehouse deck, on that moment of connection before everything fell apart. Back at the safehouse, Bella paced the living room while Samuel secured the perimeter. Her laptop still sat open on the coffee table, damning evidence glowing on the screen. Her phone buzzed, a video call from her organization's director. "Agent Briggs," the stern-faced woman began without preamble. "Your emotional compromise has been noted. You are hereby suspended from this investigation, effective immediately." Bella's spine stiffened. "With respect, Director, you don't understand the situation. Devin Locke is innocent. We have proof that—" "You were sent to investigate corruption, not defend the target." The director cut in sharply. "Your personal feelings have clouded your judgment. Stand down, that's an order." No. The word came out quiet but firm. I took this job to expose truth and protect justice. That's exactly what I'm doing now. Agent Briggs. Bella ended the call, her hands trembling slightly but her resolve stronger than ever. She looked up to find Samuel watching her with approval in his weathered face. "They're wrong about him," she said. "About everything." Samuel nodded. "Then let's prove it. Show me what we've got." They spread their evidence across the dining room table. Financial records, security footage, encrypted messages. Samuel brought coffee as the night deepened, and they meticulously built their case. Each piece they examined revealed more of Elias's careful orchestration. "Look at this," Bella said around 3 in the morning, pointing to a series of timestamps. "Every threatening message I received came within minutes of meetings Elias had with unknown parties. And here," she pulled up another document, "large cash withdrawals from unmarked accounts, all coinciding with those same meetings." Samuel leaned closer, studying the pattern. "He's paying off conspirators. But for what? Maybe this can tell us." Bella opened a calendar entry she'd found buried in the encrypted files. "Elias has a meeting scheduled for 7 tonight at a warehouse near the industrial district. No details listed, just coordinates." "That's not company property," Samuel confirmed. "Perfect place for an off-books meeting." Dawn began to creep over the mountains, painting the sky in soft pinks and golds. Bella stood and walked to the window, her mother's silver cross necklace cool against her skin. She'd worn it every day since her mother's passing, a reminder of faith, of fighting for what's right, no matter the cost. Her fingers wrapped around the small cross as she whispered a prayer, for guidance, for strength, for Devin's safety. The metal warmed beneath her touch as memories of her mother's voice filled her mind. "Trust your heart, baby girl. It knows true north." She turned back to Samuel, determination hardening her features. "We need to be at that warehouse tonight. Whatever Elias is planning, this might be our only chance to stop it." Samuel's expression was grim but approving. "I'll make some calls, get us backup we can trust. You should rest while you can." But Bella shook her head, already moving back to the laptop. "No time. We need to be ready. Everything has to be perfect." She paused, touching the cross again. "Devin's counting on us, whether he knows it or not." The morning air felt crisp and clean as Bella stepped onto the deck, watching the sun rise fully over the mountains. Someone had tried to use her as a weapon against an innocent man. Instead, she would be his salvation. She took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. "Hang on, Devin," she whispered to the brightening sky. "We're coming." In her pocket, her phone buzzed with another call from her organization. She declined it without looking. Her path was clear now. Justice, truth, and a man who deserved far better than the fate Elias had planned for him. Whatever came next, she would face it without hesitation. Behind her, Samuel worked the phones, calling in favors from trusted colleagues. Maps and blueprints covered the table, waiting to be studied. Evidence sat carefully organized and backed up, ready to be deployed at the perfect moment. They had 12 hours until Elias's meeting. 12 hours to get everything right. Bella touched the cross one final time, then turned back to their work. Time to finish this mission, not as her organization had intended, but as justice demanded. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Denver as Bella and Samuel made their final preparations. They had spent hours reviewing blueprints of the warehouse district, marking entry points and potential escape routes. Now, with sunset approaching, Bella double-checked her equipment one last time. A small camera, recording devices, and her phone set to emergency mode. Remember, Samuel said, his voice gruff with concern. "Your safety comes first. If anything feels wrong, you get out immediately." Bella nodded, adjusting her dark jacket. "I know, but we won't get another chance at this. Whatever Elias is planning, it happens tonight." They drove in tense silence through the industrial outskirts of the city. The warehouse district loomed ahead, a maze of abandoned buildings and empty loading docks. Samuel parked their unmarked vehicle in shadow, positioning it for a quick exit. "I'll monitor from here," he said, setting up surveillance equipment. "Channel 3 on the earpiece. If you need extraction. 1 click for attention, 2 for emergency." Bella finished. "I remember." The warehouse stood 3 stories tall, its windows mostly broken or boarded over. Bella moved silently through the gathering dusk, her training taking over as she identified security cameras and guard positions. 2 men patrolled the perimeter, but their patterns were sloppy, overconfident. She waited until the guards passed, then slipped through a rusted side door. The interior was dim, filled with old machinery and stacked crates. Voices echoed from above, and Bella carefully made her way up a metal staircase, testing each step to avoid creaks. On the 2nd floor, light spilled from what must have been an old office area. Bella crouched in the shadows, activating her recording devices as Elias's distinctive voice carried through the partially open door. "Everything's proceeding exactly as planned," he was saying. "Locke is finished. The evidence we planted is irrefutable. The board will have no choice but to remove him." "And what about the investigator?" A voice Bella didn't recognize asked. "She could be a problem." Elias laughed, the sound cold and dismissive. "Bella Briggs? She's already been branded an emotional liability by her own organization. No one will believe anything she says now. In fact, her presence has only helped us. What better way to destroy Locke than to have him taken down by his own fake wife?" Bella's jaw tightened as she inched closer, positioning her phone's camera through a gap in the doorway. The office space was well lit, with papers and laptops spread across a long table. 5 men stood around it, Elias at the head, pointing to documents. "These contracts show years of environmental violations and financial fraud, all apparently authorized by Devon himself." Elias continued. "By the time our lawyers are done, he'll be lucky to avoid prison. And naturally, as his trusted VP, I'll be the obvious choice to take control." "The signatures look perfect," another man commented, examining a paper. "They should. We paid enough for them. Along with the backdated permits, altered inspection reports." Elias gestured to the documents proudly. A complete paper trail, all pointing to Devon's corruption. Bella's camera clicked silently as she captured image after image. Her heart pounded, but her hands remained steady. Years of training had prepared her for moments like this. A floorboard creaked behind her. Bella spun just as a guard spotted her, his eyes widening in recognition. "Hey!" The alarm blared instantly, its shrill sound filling the warehouse. Bella bolted as shouts erupted from the office. A gunshot cracked, splintering wood near her head as she dove behind a stack of crates. "Find her!" Elias roared. "Don't let her leave with anything!" More shots rang out as Bella sprinted for the stairs, staying low. Her earpiece crackled. "Coming in hot," she whispered to Samuel between breaths. "Start the engine." She took the stairs 3 at a time, nearly falling as another bullet whizzed past. The guard's heavy footsteps thundered behind her. Bella burst through the side door into the darkness, running full tilt toward Samuel's position. More shouts. Another shot. Bella zigzagged between buildings, clutching her phone and recording devices. The evidence was too precious to lose now. She could see Samuel's car ahead, engine running, lights off. "Almost there!" She gasped into her earpiece. "Ready for—" A bullet struck the ground by her feet, sending up sparks. Bella threw herself into a roll, came up running, and practically dove into the waiting vehicle. "Go!" she yelled, and Samuel floored it. The tires squealed as they accelerated into the night, leaving the warehouse and their pursuers behind. Bella slumped in her seat, breathing hard, checking that all her devices were intact. The evidence was safe. Her hands trembled slightly as adrenaline coursed through her system, but a fierce satisfaction burned in her chest. "Did you get what we needed?" Samuel asked, taking a sharp turn onto a main road. "Everything," Bella replied, still catching her breath. "We've got him, Samuel. We've got proof of all of it." Samuel's eyes stayed focused on their escape route as he navigated through back streets, ensuring they weren't followed. Bella clutched her phone, thinking of Devon sitting alone in his cell. Soon, she thought, soon this would all be over. Behind them, sirens began to wail in the distance as police responded to reports of gunfire. But Bella and Samuel were already gone, racing through the Denver night with the truth, finally, firmly in their grasp. Samuel's vehicle sped through the quiet streets of Denver, the evidence of Elias's crimes secured safely in Bella's trembling hands. She scrolled through the photos and recordings on her phone, each piece adding to the overwhelming proof of Devon's innocence. "Call Agent Martinez," Bella instructed Samuel, her voice tight with urgency. "She's our best shot at getting immediate action. The Federal Trade Commission has been watching Locke Industries for months." Samuel nodded, already dialing through his car's system. "Sophia, we need you, now." 20 minutes later, they pulled into an empty parking lot behind a 24-hour diner. A black SUV waited there, its headlights flashing once in recognition. Agent Sophia Martinez stepped out, her usual pristine suit slightly rumpled at this late hour. "This better be worth dragging me out at midnight," she said, but her eyes were alert and focused. Bella quickly connected her devices to the agent's laptop, transferring everything they'd captured. Martinez's expression grew increasingly serious as she reviewed the evidence. The falsified documents, the recorded confessions, the elaborate conspiracy to frame Devon. "This is extensive," Martinez said, looking up at Bella. "And definitive. We've suspected corruption in Locke Industries for months, but we never imagined it was Elias Harmon all along." Bella explained, her words rushing out. "He orchestrated everything, the environmental violations, the financial fraud, even the attack on Devon. He's been building this trap for years." Martinez nodded, already making calls. Within minutes, federal agents were mobilizing across the city. "We'll move on Harmon immediately, his co-conspirators too." She paused, studying Bella's anxious expression. "You want to be there when we release Locke, don't you?" "Please," Bella whispered. "I need to explain everything myself." Martinez's features softened slightly. "Give us 1 hour to process the paperwork. Meet us at the detention center." The next 60 minutes crawled by as Bella and Samuel waited in the detention center's sterile lobby. She paced the worn linoleum floor, her mother's silver cross warm against her skin. Finally, Martinez appeared with a folder of documents. "He's being released now," she said. "Down that hallway, third door on the right." Bella broke into a run, her footsteps echoing off the institutional walls. She reached the holding cell area just as an officer was unlocking Devon's door. Through the window she could see him sitting on the narrow bed, his usual polished appearance disheveled, his shoulders heavy with exhaustion. The door swung open. Devon looked up, his eyes widening as Bella stepped inside. "Bella?" His voice was hoarse from hours of silence. She moved toward him, words spilling out in an emotional rush. "It was Elias. We have proof, everything. The falsified contracts, the staged evidence, all of it. He's being arrested right now." She took a shaky breath. "Devon, I'm so sorry. I was wrong about you. They used me, chose me specifically because they knew I'd believe the worst about corporate executives. but you're nothing like what they said." Devin stood slowly, his expression softening as he looked at her. "You risked everything to uncover the truth. You deserved the truth," Bella said simply. "I just hope you can forgive me for doubting you." Instead of answering, Devin stepped forward and pulled her into his arms. Bella melted into the embrace, feeling the tension of the past days finally begin to release. They stood like that for a long moment, sharing the quiet comfort of vindication and understanding. "Mr. Locke." An officer appeared in the doorway, looking apologetic. "We have your release papers ready, and we're very sorry about this situation, sir." They walked together through the detention center's corridors, Devin's hand resting lightly on Bella's back. Samuel waited for them at the entrance, his weathered face breaking into a relieved smile. "Good to have you back, boss," he said gruffly, pulling Devin into a quick embrace. Outside, the night air was cool and sweet after the stale confines of the holding cell. Their vehicle sat waiting, Samuel already moving to the driver's seat. Devin and Bella slid into the back, both physically and emotionally drained. As they wound their way up into the foothills, the city spread out below them like a glittering carpet. The same lights Bella had seen on her first night in Denver, but now they seemed to hold a different meaning, not cold and corporate, but warm with possibility. Devin's hand found hers in the darkness of the car. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for believing in the truth, even when it meant admitting you were wrong." Bella squeezed his hand, watching the city lights shimmer below them like stars fallen to earth, each one a small beacon of hope for their new beginning. Morning sunlight streamed through the towering glass windows of Locke Industries' executive floor, casting long shadows across the polished marble as employees arrived for what would become a historic day. The tension in the air was thick enough to touch as board members filed into the main conference room, their faces etched with confusion and concern over the emergency meeting notice. Bella stood beside Devin in his office, adjusting her blazer nervously. "Are you ready for this?" He gave her a gentle smile, his eyes tired but determined. "With you by my side?" "Always." They entered the conference room together, where 15 board members sat around the massive mahogany table. Elias Harmon occupied his usual seat, his expression carefully neutral, though his fingers drummed restlessly against his leather portfolio. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," Devin began, his voice steady and authoritative. Before he could continue, the double doors opened again. Federal agents in dark suits filed in, led by Agent Martinez. The room fell silent. "Elias Harmon," Martinez announced clearly, "you are under arrest for conspiracy, corporate fraud, attempted murder, and numerous other federal violations." The color drained from Elias's face as 2 agents approached him. He jumped to his feet, knocking over his chair. "This is ridiculous! I demand to speak to my lawyer!" "Your lawyer has already been contacted," Martinez replied coolly. "We have extensive evidence of your crimes." The board members watched in stunned silence as the agents handcuffed Elias. Several gasped when he lunged suddenly toward Devin, snarling, "You think you've won? You're nothing but a soft-hearted fool who doesn't deserve this company." "Actually," Bella spoke up, her voice ringing clear and strong, "Devin is exactly what this company needs." She stepped forward, meeting the shocked stares of the board members. "My name is Bella Briggs. I was placed in this company as an investigative operative, tasked with uncovering corporate corruption. But I was manipulated from the start." She moved to the front of the room as the agents escorted a struggling Elias out. Opening her laptop, she began displaying evidence on the large screen. Mr. Harmon orchestrated an elaborate scheme to frame Devin Locke and seize control of the company. He falsified environmental violations, created fraudulent financial records, and even attempted to have both Devon and me killed in that garage explosion. The board members leaned forward, their expressions shifting from confusion to horror as document after document appeared on screen. Surveillance photos, doctored contracts, threatening messages, and finally, the warehouse recording of Elias bragging about his plan. Margaret Chen, one of the oldest board members, removed her glasses with trembling hands. Dear God, we nearly let this happen right under our noses. Devon Locke is innocent of all accusations. Bella continued firmly. In fact, during my investigation, I discovered his anonymous charitable works, his ethical business practices, and his genuine care for employees at every level. I was chosen for this assignment because my background made me predisposed to distrust corporate leadership. Elias knew I would believe the worst about Devon without looking deeper. William Parker, the board chairman, stood slowly. Ms. Briggs, your courage in bringing this truth to light is commendable. And Devon. He turned to face him. We owe you a profound apology. Your father would be proud of how you've upheld his legacy of integrity. One by one, the board members expressed their regret and support. Janet Morrison, who had often challenged Devon's decisions, wiped tears from her eyes as she spoke. I've served on this board for 25 years. The thought that we almost let a monster like Harmon destroy everything we've built. Devon, please accept my deepest apology. The chairman called for an immediate vote to formally reinstate Devon as CEO. The support was unanimous, accompanied by sustained applause. As federal agents continued gathering statements and evidence, Devon touched Bella's elbow gently. Walk with me. They slipped out of the bustling conference room and took the elevator down to the ground floor. Outside, the late morning sun warmed the corporate plaza where a central fountain created a peaceful backdrop to the day's dramatic events. They walked in comfortable silence until Devon stopped beside the fountain, its spray creating tiny rainbows in the air. He turned to face Bella, taking both her hands in his. You risked everything, he said softly. Your career, your reputation, your own beliefs. You chose truth over comfort, integrity over safety. Bella squeezed his hands, feeling the strength and gentleness in them. The truth was worth everything it cost. You were worth it. Thank you, Devon whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for seeing past the lies, for fighting for justice even when it meant admitting you were wrong. Not many people have that kind of courage. The fountain's gentle music surrounded them as they stood there, hands clasped, sharing a moment of pure relief and gratitude. Justice had been served, truth had prevailed, and in the process, something beautiful and unexpected had bloomed between them. Something built on trust, respect, and the courage to believe in each other. The elevator doors opened to the 40th floor of Locke Tower, where Devon's penthouse occupied the entire level. Bella stepped out, carrying 2 grocery bags filled with fresh ingredients. The setting sun painted the spacious living area in warm, golden hues through the floor-to-ceiling windows. It feels different being here now, Bella said softly, taking in the stunning view of Denver's skyline. Peaceful. Devon nodded, setting down his briefcase. The security team swept every inch. We're safe here. He watched as she moved confidently towards the kitchen. You really don't have to cook. We could order in. I want to, Bella replied, unpacking vegetables and herbs. After everything that's happened, we deserve a real meal and real conversation. The kitchen was a chef's dream, with gleaming stainless steel appliances and marble countertops, but it had clearly seen little use. Bella rolled up her sleeves and began washing fresh tomatoes and basil. Can I help? Devon asked, hovering uncertainly. Bella smiled. You can chop these onions while I start the sauce. She handed him a sharp knife and cutting board. They worked together companionably, the kitchen filling with aromatic scents as Bella crafted her grandmother's special pasta sauce recipe. Devin proved to be a willing, if inexperienced, sous chef, following her instructions carefully. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" he asked, watching her stir the simmering sauce. "My mum taught me. We didn't have much growing up, but she made sure every meal felt special." Bella sprinkled in some dried oregano. Food was how we showed love in our family. As the pasta boiled and bread warmed in the oven, they settled into an easy rhythm. Bella noticed how Devin seemed to relax, his usual corporate persona softening in the informal setting. When everything was ready, they carried their plates to the elegant dining room. Candles flickered in crystal holders, casting intimate shadows across the table. "This is incredible," Devin said after his first bite. "I can't remember the last time I had a home-cooked meal here." "Do you usually eat alone?" Bella asked gently. Devin set down his fork, considering. "Most nights. Sometimes I work so late I forget to eat at all." He took a sip of water, his expression distant. "The funny thing is, I grew up in a huge house full of people, staff, business associates, my father's endless parade of colleagues, but it was probably the loneliest place in the world." Bella listened intently as he continued. "My mother died when I was 7. After that, my father threw himself into work. I had everything money could buy, but—" He shrugged. Success was expected. Weakness wasn't tolerated. By the time I took over the company, I'd mastered the role of the confident, capable CEO. But inside, "You were still that lonely little boy," Bella finished softly. "Yes." Devin met her eyes. "All the success, all the wealth, it never filled that emptiness." Bella reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "I used to think men like you, powerful, wealthy, couldn't possibly understand what it's like for families like mine. When my community was destroyed by corporate greed, it just confirmed everything I believed." "What changed?" Devin asked. "You did?" Bella smiled. "Watching you with your employees, discovering your anonymous charitable works, seeing how deeply you care about doing what's right, you shattered every preconception I had." They finished their meal talking about lighter things, childhood dreams, favorite books, silly stories that made them laugh. As they cleared the dishes together, Bella felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the kitchen's lingering heat. "Would you like to sit outside?" Devin gestured toward the balcony. "The stars should be coming out soon." The evening air was cool and fresh as they settled onto the comfortable outdoor sofa. The city stretched out below them, a tapestry of twinkling lights and gentle movement. Above, the first stars were beginning to pierce the darkening sky. Bella drew her knees up, wrapping her arms around them. "It's so beautiful up here." "Bella," Devin said quietly, "there's something I need to tell you." He turned to face her, his expression serious. "These past few weeks, despite all the danger and uncertainty, have shown me what I've been missing in my life. Real connection, trust, the courage to be vulnerable." He took a deep breath. "The lawyers say we can file for annulment now that everything's settled, but I don't want our marriage to end." Bella's heart skipped. She could feel tears gathering in her eyes as she whispered, "I don't want it to end either." Devin reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining naturally, perfectly. Around them, the city hummed with life, its gentle glow a backdrop to this moment of quiet truth. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the stars multiply above, while their joined hands spoke volumes about new beginnings and hearts finally finding home. The early morning sun painted Denver's skyline in hues of gold and rose as reporters gathered outside Locke Industries headquarters. The press conference, hastily arranged in the wake of recent events, had drawn media from across the country. Camera crews jostled for position while journalists checked their equipment one final time. Bella stood backstage, smoothing her navy blazer with trembling hands. The events of the past weeks felt surreal, from that first night at the charity gala to the harrowing investigation that had changed everything. "Nervous?" Samuel asked, appearing beside her with a reassuring smile. "A little," she admitted. "I've never been comfortable in the spotlight." "You faced down armed criminals in that warehouse," Samuel reminded her. "This should be easy in comparison." Bella laughed softly. "Somehow this feels scarier." The door opened and Devin walked in, looking sharp in a charcoal suit. His presence immediately commanded attention, but Bella noticed the gentle warmth in his eyes when he saw her, so different from the guarded businessman she'd first met. "Ready?" he asked, touching her elbow lightly. Bella nodded, drawing strength from his quiet confidence. Together, they walked towards the small stage that had been set up in the building's grand lobby. Morning light streamed through the towering windows, creating a natural spotlight. As they emerged, camera shutters clicked rapidly. Reporters leaned forward, notebooks ready. The room hummed with anticipation. Devin stepped to the podium, his voice clear and steady as he began. "Good morning. Thank you all for coming. As you know, recent events have revealed a conspiracy of corruption within Locke Industries, one that threatened not only this company, but the very principles of ethical business we stand for." He paused, scanning the crowd. "But today, I'm not here to discuss the scandal. Instead, I want to talk about truth, courage, and redemption, embodied in one remarkable person." Devin turned toward Bella, his expression softening. "Many of you first saw Bella Briggs at our charity gala weeks ago, when fate and some very confused paperwork brought us together in what seemed like a joke. What none of us knew then was that she would become instrumental in uncovering a dangerous plot and saving both my life and this company." Murmurs rippled through the crowd as reporters scribbled frantically. Bella felt her cheeks warm under the attention, but she held her head high. Bella came to Locke Industries believing she would find corruption and greed. Devin continued. Instead, she found truth and had the courage to stand for it, even when it meant questioning everything she'd been told to believe. Her integrity, her bravery, and her unwavering commitment to justice have humbled and inspired me. He stepped away from the podium, moving closer to where Bella stood. But something else happened during those dangerous days. As we worked together, fought together, and learned to trust each other, I discovered something I'd been missing my entire life: real connection, genuine understanding, and the kind of love that makes you want to be better than you are. A collective gasp rose from the audience as Devin reached into his pocket. Bella's heart thundered as he withdrew a familiar object, the simple silver ring from that first night at the gala. "The first time I put this ring on your finger, it was a joke," Devin said softly, though his microphone carried the words clearly through the hushed room. Then, to everyone's amazement, he lowered himself to one knee. Camera flashes exploded around them as Devin held up the ring. "This time, it's the truest thing I've ever done." His voice carried emotion that no one had ever heard from the normally composed CEO. "Bella Briggs, will you marry me? Not because of mixed-up paperwork or legal complications, but because we choose each other, trust each other, and want to build a life together?" Tears spilled down Bella's cheeks as she nodded, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes," she managed. "Yes." The room erupted in applause as Devin slipped the ring onto her finger, this time with reverence instead of playful showmanship. He stood and drew her into his arms, holding her close as cameras continued to flash around them. Through the soaring windows, the morning sun rose higher, bathing them in golden light. Bella could feel Devon's heart beating steady and strong against her own. In that moment, all the fear, doubt, and loneliness of their pasts fell away, replaced by the promise of a future neither had dared to imagine. They remained embraced as the applause continued, their silhouettes framed by the rising sun. A new day, a new beginning, and a love story that had transformed from an accidental marriage into something real and profound. Samuel watched from the side, smiling proudly at the couple who had overcome so much to find their way to this moment. Reporters called out questions, but for now, Devon and Bella remained in their own world, holding each other as the morning light grew stronger, illuminating the path ahead. The late afternoon sun cast a warm glow through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Devon and Bella's penthouse as she adjusted a bouquet of fresh flowers on the dining table. 6 weeks had passed since their public declaration of love, and life had settled into a rhythm that felt both new and wonderfully familiar. "Need any help with that?" Devon asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. Bella leaned back against him, smiling. "I think I've got it just right, though I'm still not used to having formal dinners in our home." "Our home," Devon repeated softly, loving how natural those words felt now. "You've made it feel more like one than it ever was before." The dinner they were preparing for wasn't a grand corporate affair or charity event. Instead, they'd invited a small group of people who had become their chosen family. Samuel, of course, along with Mrs. Martinez from the building's front desk, who had always shown Bella kindness during her intern days, and Dr. Chen, their elderly neighbor who had offered wise counsel during their tumultuous early weeks. As Bella moved to check on the roasting chicken, a recipe from her mother she'd perfected over years, she thought about how different her life looked now from what she'd imagined when she first walked into Locke Industries. Instead of exposing corporate corruption, she now led the company's new Community Protection and Ethics division, working to ensure other families wouldn't face the hardships her own community had endured. The doorbell chimed, and Devon welcomed Samuel, who arrived early as always, carrying a bottle of wine and wearing a warm smile. "Something smells amazing," Samuel said, giving Bella a fatherly hug. "You two have really made this place into a home." "All Bella's doing," Devon admitted with a grin. "I just try not to get in the way." Soon Mrs. Martinez arrived, her eyes twinkling as she handed Bella a traditional family dessert recipe, followed by Dr. Chen, who brought tea from his hometown in China. The small group gathered in the living room, and the space filled with easy conversation and genuine laughter. Over dinner, stories flowed as naturally as the wine. Mrs. Martinez shared tales of watching Bella try to maintain her intern cover, while Dr. Chen spoke of seeing the gradual transformation in Devon from a guarded neighbor to a man visibly softened by love. "I remember the day everything changed," Samuel said, his voice carrying the weight of memory. "When that explosion hit, I thought I'd failed you both. Instead, it became the catalyst for something remarkable." As they finished their meal, Samuel stood, raising his glass. The room quieted, everyone turning to the man who had watched over Devon and Bella through their darkest days. "To second chances," he began, his voice rich with emotion. "To two people who proved that trust can overcome suspicion, that love can heal old wounds, and that sometimes life's biggest mistakes turn out to be its greatest blessings." "To second chances," everyone echoed, glasses clinking in the warm light. Later, after their guests had gone home with leftovers and hugs, Devon suggested a drive. Bella knew exactly where they were headed before they even turned onto the familiar mountain road. The safe house stood quiet against the backdrop of twinkling city lights below. They settled onto the porch where they'd spent so many tense nights during those first weeks, now transformed into a place of peace. Devin took Bella's hand, his thumb brushing over her wedding ring, the same simple silver band from the gala, now carrying the weight of their real love story. "Sometimes I still can't believe how everything turned out," Bella said softly, watching the city lights shimmer below. "I came here so certain about everything, about you, about what was right and wrong. And I was so wrapped up in my own world, I couldn't see what was missing," Devin replied, "until a beautiful fake intern turned my life upside down." Bella laughed softly, leaning into his shoulder. "We were quite a mess, weren't we?" "The best kind of mess," Devin agreed, pulling her closer. "You know, every morning I thank God for that paperwork mix-up, for bringing me the woman I never expected but always needed." Bella nestled deeper into his embrace, feeling the steady beat of his heart against her cheek. The city stretched out before them, but here on their porch they had found their true home, in each other's arms, in the quiet understanding that had grown from suspicion, in the love that had bloomed from the most unlikely beginning. The evening air carried the scent of pine and possibility as they sat together, holding hands, their shadows merging into one in the gentle moonlight. What had started as a staged ceremony at a charity gala had transformed into something real and lasting. A love story written not in grand gestures, but in small moments of trust, in chosen family gathered around a dinner table, in the courage to believe in second chances. Bella closed her eyes, listening to Devin's heartbeat and the soft whisper of the wind through the trees. In this moment, on this porch where everything had changed, she felt the full circle of their journey, from strangers bound by a mistake to partners united by choice and love. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows as Bella stood at the counter, papers spread before her, while the rich aroma of coffee filled the air. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, reviewing her presentation notes one final time. "Your third read-through hasn't changed the words," Devin teased gently, sliding a steaming mug toward her. He'd learned exactly how she liked her coffee, 2 sugars and a splash of cream, just as she'd learned he preferred his black, with just a hint of cinnamon. I know. Bella smiled, accepting the mug gratefully. "I just want everything to be perfect. This foundation means so much to both of us." Devin moved behind her, placing his hands on her shoulders. "You've got this. Nobody understands both sides of this better than you do, the corporate perspective and the community needs." Their morning routine had fallen into place so naturally over the past weeks. Bella would wake first, usually finding Devin already in the kitchen, having learned to brew coffee just the way she liked it. They'd share quiet moments before the day began, speaking in soft voices about their hopes and plans. "Remember when I thought you were just another ruthless CEO?" Bella laughed, gathering her papers into a neat stack. "Remember when I thought you were just a shy intern?" Devin countered, helping her organize the presentation materials. "Life has a funny way of proving us wrong sometimes." They finished their breakfast in comfortable silence, stealing glances at each other across the table. The morning light caught Bella's wedding ring, the same silver band from that fateful night at the gala, now carrying the weight of their real love story. The drive into the city was peaceful, with Devin at the wheel while Bella reviewed her notes one last time. The Denver skyline rose before them, gleaming in the morning sun. As they pulled into the underground parking garage of Locke Industries, Samuel was already waiting, his familiar, steady presence bringing a smile to both their faces. "There's my favorite power couple." Samuel greeted them warmly, pulling Bella into a quick hug before clasping Devin's shoulder. "The board is already gathering upstairs. And Bella, they're excited to hear your vision." The 3 of them rode the elevator together, Samuel sharing last-minute updates about security improvements and new protective measures implemented since the attack. His protective instincts hadn't dimmed, but now they extended equally to both Devon and Bella. When the elevator doors opened to the executive floor, they were greeted by several board members who had arrived early. Mrs. Thompson, one of the longest-serving members, immediately approached Bella with outstretched hands. "My dear, we've been looking forward to this presentation," she said warmly. "It's about time Locke Industries had someone with your perspective leading our community initiatives." Mr. Chen, another senior board member, nodded in agreement. "The company needs this fresh direction. And who better to guide it than someone who understands both sides so well?" Bella felt Devon's reassuring presence beside her as they made their way to the boardroom. The space had been transformed since the day Elias was arrested, now feeling more welcoming with natural light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. As the remaining board members filed in, Bella stood at the front of the room, her nerves settling into focused determination. Devon took his seat at the head of the table, giving her an encouraging nod. "Good morning," Bella began, her voice clear and confident. "Today, I'm presenting the framework for the Locke Foundation's new initiative, Building Bridges for Tomorrow." For the next hour, Bella outlined their comprehensive plan. She spoke passionately about educational grants for underprivileged communities, environmental accountability measures, and safe reporting channels for employees at all levels. She shared stories from her own community's experiences, connecting them to practical solutions that would benefit both the company and its neighbors. "This isn't just about corporate responsibility," she explained, her eyes meeting each board member's gaze. "It's about creating lasting partnerships with the communities we serve. It's about proving that profit and purpose can coexist." When she finished, Devon rose from his chair, moving to stand beside her. "What you've heard today isn't just a proposal. It's a promise." He addressed the board. A promise that grew from what some might call an accident. He smiled at Bella before continuing. "My marriage to Bella might have started as an unexpected twist of fate, but it has shaped this company's future in ways I never imagined. She's shown me that true leadership means listening to voices we might have overlooked before." The board's response was overwhelmingly positive. One by one, they voiced their support for the initiative, many sharing personal stories of why they believed in this new direction. After the meeting, Samuel helped them gather their materials, his pride evident in his expression. "You two make quite a team," he observed. "Who would have thought that explosion would lead to all this?" As evening approached, instead of heading to their usual spot at the safe house, Devon suggested a walk through one of Denver's quieter parks. The spring air was mild, carrying the scent of blooming flowers as they strolled hand in hand along the winding paths. Under a flowering cherry tree, Devon stopped, turning to face Bella. The setting sun painted the sky in soft pinks and purples, filtering through the delicate petals above them. "You know," he said softly, taking both her hands in his. "Choosing you wasn't just the best decision of my life. It's one I want to make every single day for the rest of our lives." Bella stepped closer, resting her forehead against his. Her heart felt full with the journey that had brought them here. From a staged wedding that made headlines, through danger and uncertainty, to this moment of pure, chosen love. From a publicity stunt to true partnership, she whispered, squeezing his hands gently. "From suspicion to trust," Devon added. "From pretense to love," Bella completed, closing her eyes as the evening breeze rustled through the cherry blossoms above them. The evening air grew cooler as Devon and Bella made their way back to the penthouse, their fingers intertwined. The sky above Denver painted a masterpiece of soft pinks and deep golds, nature's own celebration of their peaceful moment together. Inside their home, they fell into an easy rhythm that still felt wonderfully new. Bella moved through the kitchen with quiet grace, pulling fresh vegetables from the refrigerator, while Devon gathered plates and silverware. The gentle clink of dishes and the subtle sounds of chopping created a domestic symphony neither had expected to cherish so deeply. "It feels strange, doesn't it?" Bella mused as she stirred vegetables in a pan. "How normal this feels after everything." Devon paused in arranging the napkins, a soft smile playing at his lips. "Good strange, though." As they settled at the table, the city's first evening lights beginning to twinkle beyond their windows, Bella took a deep breath. "I received an interesting call today," she began, watching Devon's expression carefully. "From my former organization." Devon's fork paused halfway to his mouth, but his eyes remained gentle, encouraging her to continue. "They've formally cleared me of any wrongdoing during the investigation," she explained, her voice steady. "And they offered me a leadership position, heading up their corporate accountability division." The silence stretched between them for a moment before Devon asked softly, "What did you tell them?" "I declined," Bella said simply, reaching for her water glass. "I explained that my purpose now lies with the work we're doing together. The reforms we're building at Locke Industries, they're exactly what I've always wanted to achieve. Not just exposing problems, but actively creating solutions." Devon set down his fork, his eyes suddenly bright with emotion. "You're choosing to stay." His voice caught slightly on the words. "Even with everything they could offer." Bella noticed the vulnerability in his question. The little boy who'd grown up feeling he had to earn love through success was still there, beneath the confident exterior. "Devon," she said gently, reaching across the table to take his hands in hers. "Worthiness isn't something that comes from money or power or making people fear you. It grows from kindness, from humility, from having the courage to do what's right even when it's hard." She squeezed his hands. "You've shown all of those qualities, even when you thought no one was looking." A tear slipped down Devon's cheek as he held her gaze. "I haven't felt truly worthy of something good since I was a kid," he admitted quietly. "Until you." After dinner, they stepped out onto the balcony together, the night air wrapping around them like a soft blanket. Below, Denver sparkled with countless lights, each one representing lives they hoped to touch through their work together. "Wait here a moment," Devon whispered, disappearing briefly inside. When he returned, he held a small velvet box in his hands, his eyes shining with purpose. "Our first rings came from a joke," he said, opening the box to reveal 2 elegant bands. "These ones come from choice." He lifted one of the rings, showing Bella the words engraved inside, "Chosen daily." "Because that's what love really is, isn't it?" He continued softly. "Not a one-time decision, but a choice we make every morning when we wake up." Tears welled in Bella's eyes as Devon took her hand, sliding the ring onto her finger beside her original band. Together, in whispered voices that carried all the weight of their journey, they renewed their vows, not for cameras or crowds, but for each other. "I choose you," Bella whispered, placing the matching ring on Devon's finger. "Today and every day." They held each other close as the night deepened around them, their hearts beating in sync. What had begun as an accident, a publicity stunt gone wrong, had transformed into the most intentional promise either of them had ever made. Standing there, wrapped in each other's arms with the city lights twinkling below, they knew that some of life's greatest gifts come disguised as mistakes. Thank you for being here. If something in this story stayed with you, I'd love to see you again. Subscribe. And tomorrow, I'll bring you another story crafted with heart.